What's up, boxing brothers and sisters? So this Amanda Serrano situation, if you maybe have just unplugged from boxing for a little bit, it's been going on for a while, but Amanda Serrano has now vacated the WBC belt. And you kind of saw this writing on the wall when she fought for the unified titles against Ramos. It was a 12-3. The WBC did not want to be involved because they will not let women fight for 12 rounds, 3 minutes. And so Serrano said, you know what? Screw it. I want to do it. So we're going to get all the other belts involved, and then I'm going to do it. And she did. She was successful. There was no, seems like a byproduct from the fight. There was no issues from Ramos nor her. And so she wants to continue doing that for the rest of her career. The WBC was like, sorry, we're not going to sanction 12-3. And so Serrano has now vacated the belt. And this has brought all kinds of things, all kinds of talk from Skye Nicolson. Skye Nicolson saying she knew I was going to be her mandatory. So she knows I have the style to beat her. So she went ahead and dropped the belt because she knew she was going to get her butt whooped. That's what Skye Nicolson is saying. Now, how true that is, I'm not going to say that is true, because Amanda Serrano's been talking about 12 rounds, 3 minutes when she was fighting Katie Taylor in Madison Square Garden the first time. Now, this is not something brand new just because Skye Nicholson's involved. So I don't know why Skye Nicolson believes that, or she's going to continue believing that, but I don't believe that to be true. But Alicia Baumgartner also got in on it when she went on the WBC's Instagram, but I'll kind of roll that back. Say the WBC put out a statement, and the statement talks about how the WBC chose to initiate Women's World Championships back in 2004. And that's true. They were one of the first, if not the first, I think they were the first to actually have a world title for women, at least amongst the major sanctioning bodies. They said the WBC chose to spend money, time, and effort to have continuous medical and scientific research, evaluate and create specific rules for women in boxing. The WBC chose to support women and not charge a single penny to them in sanction fees. The WBC chose to organize 3 world conventions exclusively to women's boxing in Cancun, Tijuana, and Manila. It says, however, the sport itself is not about choice. Boxing by its nature demands safety guidelines. So this is just them doubling down on based on those rules. And I actually mentioned when they did that study, and that was actually from, I believe it was a doctor from UCLA. It was in a video that I did with Amanda Serrano. It was called Game Changer in the thumbnail. It was right before the Ramos fight. So go check that out. And I actually read some excerpts that the doc has said. So check that out. But in this one, they're just doubling down on that. They're saying, look, we did the study. We know that concussions is 80% more likely with women. And that's what they're using. That's what they're using. Even though the doctor came back and said that female fighters need to be tested. That's what it comes down to. The main issue is that there is a risk there. There is a risk there, and there's an elevated risk for women compared to men. So the WBC wants to keep it at 10-2. Me personally, I still think if the WBC wanted to move, let's say, acquiesce to people wanting to do 12-3, they should do 12-2s. I don't know why they can't at least do 12-2s. But another thing that was interesting about the WBC's post is Alicia Baumgartner chimed in on that post. And she said, I support WBC boxing for their consistent support in women's boxing. I personally like fighting 2 minutes. And she said that before. I've said that in my videos as well. If you go back and check that out, I actually had it when she said it. And she says, to say I'm less of a champion because I'm not fighting 3 minutes is absurd. And I agree. I mean, but who is saying that she's less of a champion for not fighting 3 minutes? Maybe that's fans, ridiculous fans that are saying that. But I'm sure real boxing fans are not saying that. True boxing fans are not saying you're not a champion because you fight less than 3 minutes. I mean, look at Wilder's fights. Wilder defended his belt like 8 times. 8 times. And did he go 12 rounds every time? No, of course, he knocked him out sooner. I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with it. But I understand what she's saying. She doesn't like to be minimized or marginalized because she's deciding to do 2-minute rounds. And I think Amanda Serrano is applying pressure. That's what this is. This move is applying a lot of pressure, and it's making the WBC coming out with a huge statement like this, trying to defend themselves on what they're doing, because they know Amanda Serrano is a very popular figure, and it's gaining traction. This 3-minute rounds is gaining traction because when fans are seeing it done and they're not seeing anything negative that's happening due to the 12-3-minute rounds, they're going to wonder why not make the change. And you can keep saying science, science, science. But the more it happens, you're not going to have a leg to stand on. Now, we got Natasha Jonas and Mikaela Mayer that are fighting soon, I think in January. Mikaela Mayer wants to do 12-3. Jonas said it wasn't even brought up to her about the 12-3 because Mayer wanted to do 12-3. And then apparently she said the team didn't want to do it. Jonas's team didn't want to do it. At the press conference, Natasha Jonas said, I didn't even know. But she's willing to talk about it. She's willing to discuss it. Ben Shalom was like, well, 2-minute rounds, I think it's more exciting, et cetera, et cetera. So we already know who it was that declined it, who denied it. It wasn't Natasha Jonas.
And so I did ask for 3-minute rounds for this fight, but, it takes two to agree to that. And it didn't seem like Natasha or her team wanted to make it happen.
Did you want to have a comment on that? I mean, it's probably a wider discussion for another day.
I did never know.
So it'll be interesting to see if they go 12-3, if there was some negotiation there and be progressive and go 12-3. But who's wrong and who's right? I don't think either one of them is wrong or right. I think the establishment definitely needs to make a change. And when I say the establishment, I'm talking about the WBC. Because what we can't have, I don't think we can have this in boxing, or it's really going to look bad. If you have one set of fighters that are fighting for belts at 12-3 with the women, and then another set of fighters that are fighting at 10-2. That's no bueno. And then you're talking about unifying belts. Guess who's left out? It's going to be the 10-2 that's going to be left out, especially if the rest of them are down with 12-3. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Keep your eyes on this. This is just the beginning, and it's going to develop more and more over time, especially as long as Amanda Serrano keeps pushing it. And she's going to be in a few more fights. So the next Katie Taylor fight, I'm hoping it's 12-3. I definitely think it can, but will Katie Taylor be the next one, the next domino to fall and drop that WBC belt, and her and Amanda Serrano meet at Croke Park 12-3? That will be another domino to fall, another smack in the face of the WBC, and the pressure will heighten. Also, with the WBC talking about keeping things 10-2, they also mentioned about the men, possibly having the men go to 2-minute rounds. And they mentioned the excitement of it all. You know how women's fights are exciting with the 2-minute rounds. And they're talking about when the men being 2-minute rounds. But remember when they were talking about the women, they were talking about science. So now their justification for moving the men to 2 minutes is excitement. So why change it from 3-minute rounds, WBC? Just because of excitement? That's it? Or is this just a reaction? Is this something that they're saying to kind of detract from what's really trying to happen? And that's for women to go 12-3. And it's interesting. It's very interesting. But just curious what your thoughts are on this. Let me know in the comments. That's all I got for this one. Catch you on the next one. Peace.